Hi and welcome back. In this episode we're going to talk about children and spirituality. So this is for the kids, or maybe not only for the kids. I do my best to give my son an idea of what spirituality and religion means. This is through books, of course, but also by visiting places all over the world that have a spiritual or religious meaning to people. I remember when my son was about 6 years old, our family visited the Xingtian temple in Taipei. This temple is devoted to Guan Yu. Guan Yu is a very inspiring personality. He's originally from mainland China, but he's very well known and respected in many Asian countries. You can find him even in Chinese video games, where he is the ultimate warrior, very skilled in martial arts, but also very famous for his loyalty and his righteousness. This is how he looks like, or at least this is a hand puppet made by a craftsman in Taipei. If you like to know more about this incredible deity, you can find him under different names like Guan Yu or Guan Gong or Guan Di. It's really worthwhile to discover this great personality. Now let's return to the story. So my son was 6 years old, and while in the temple, he saw that some people were throwing little red half-moon shaped blocks to the ground. And I explained to him that it were like oracle blocks and that people used them to pray and then threw them on the ground to receive divine guidance. By the way the blocks fell, they received answers to their questions. The little boy asked if he could try it, and I saw no harm in it, so I gave him the blocks. He put the blocks in his hands, closed his eyes, and after a while he opened his eyes and he threw the blocks on the ground, and then very carefully inspected how they felt. I saw a relief in his face when the blocks indicated that the answer to his question was yes. He picked up the blocks, closed his eyes and threw them a second time. And again they indicated that the answer was yes. And again he had a feeling of relief on his face and he smiled. The seriousness with which he was doing that made me a bit worried. And so before he could have the chance to throw them a third time, I kindly stopped him and I asked him, "What were your questions so far?" And the little boy answered, "The first question was if there would be a life after this life. And the second question was that if my best friend Neil would still be my best friend in the next life." That explained the relief and the smile on his face when, in both cases, the blocks indicated yes. I was a bit surprised by the kind of questions he was asking, and I was worried about the next question and even more worried about the potential answer to that next question, so I decided to put an end to this little ritual. The little boy was of course a bit disappointed and said, "But I have so many things to ask." Then I remembered a Chinese story that helped to explain it to him. I told him that it was best to treat these kind of things as one would treat a lucky dragon. When you come across a lucky dragon in your life, every time you touch him, you will be lucky. But every time you touch him, he would also shrink a little bit and get smaller and smaller. So if you would touch him too many times in a short period of time, he would disappear very fast. I told him that if you feel happy in your life because you received something nice, just like the answers you just received, enjoy them and cherish them and don't go immediately for more. If we would know everything the future would bring, we would not be able to enjoy anymore what is here and now. That time I was lucky because the story had the right effect. But the best experience that I had so far with my son when it comes to religion and spirituality was when I read to him The Life of Buddha by Osamu Tezuka. The author, Osamu Tezuka, was born in Osaka in 1928. His most well-known character is Astroboy, or Mighty Atom as he is known in Japan. And he is worldwide known as the founder of Manga, which is a cartoon style that is still very much alive in the 21st century. Osamu Tezuka created 700 volumes and 150,000 pages. He was a really working machine. And in 1972 he starts another of his many epic works This time the story is about the life of the Buddha. When my son was about 5 years old, I put him on my lap and in front of him I opened book 1 of this incredible graphic novel. In total there are 8 volumes of this story and each book has about 300 to 400 pages. All the drawings are in black and white, like almost all the mangas were in the beginning. It tells the fascinating story about Prince Siddhartha, who belonged to a powerful warrior clan from the north of India. He lives in a privileged and very protected world and he has everything that he wants. But he has no clue about how the real world is. He doesn't even know what suffering, poverty or what death is. So one day he runs away from home and leaves his wife and his young child behind to discover the world outside the palace. And he never returns home. Instead, he goes on a journey to search for a perfect understanding of everything in the world, which is called enlightenment. The version of Osamu Tezuka of this very well-known story is beautifully told. The drawings are very vivid and full of emotions. And although it are drawings, they come across very dynamic. Additionally, he uses so much humor in his drawings. And because of all this, I think that is why children might like to follow the story visually when it is read to them. The story tells about war and peace, about loyalty and betrayal, about love and disappointment, about suffering and happiness, and naturally about life and death. Of course, when it's read to young children, they will have a lot of questions, and maybe they do not understand everything right away. But the visualization of this very beautiful story about the Buddha created, at least between me and my son, very nice little conversations about the very essential things of life. The many battles with elephants and fearsome warriors and the love stories and the stories about apparently bad people that turn out to be good people and the other way around makes it very entertaining and compelling to read for every age. And then there is book 4, which is my favorite part of the story. This is where Siddhartha, after many challenging years, finds the moment of enlightenment and becomes the Buddha, or the awakened. Osamu Tezuka tells in a very simple and beautiful way how the Buddha comes to understand that all living creatures are linked with each other. All 8 books are very well narrated. Although the reader learns about the life of Siddhartha, there are many fictional elements added by the author too. So this epic work might not be a real biography, it is nevertheless a great manga story, based on real events that let all people, young and old, think about life and its meaning. To me, this epic work was the perfect way to start to talk about spirituality to my son when he was still a very little boy. If you have any books that you think are really inspiring for young people to learn about religion and or spirituality, then let me know, please. As always, I'm looking forward to your thoughts, suggestions and ideas. And don't forget to check out the notes on this post on Bold Books and Bones to find more interesting stuff about this episode. See you next time at Bold Books and Bones.